Hi, just wanted to share with you two dreams that are related to Chinese invasion. The first dream, I had it on July 13th of this year, 2020, and I was on a field and I was next to two American soldiers. They were set very low, like in a trench, and they had full armor. And in the distance, I could see a wooded area. And out of it were coming a group of about 5 to 6 Chinese soldiers wearing green camouflage uniforms. And they were not aware of the Americans' presence. As they started getting near to them, I could see one of the American soldiers telling to the other, the Chinese are here. And they were ready to attack. That's when I woke up. The second dream I had it recently on October 12th of this year. And in this dream, I was in a small building on the same setting. I could see the outside, and it was like a big field in the dark at nighttime. And I could see a wooded area in the distance, and I could also see a hill as well. In the dream, I knew that the Chinese army were coming towards the building that I was in. I could overhear their voices, heavy machinery, tanks, and as soon as I heard them coming, I turned the light off in the room that I was in. And as soon as I did that, a light came on right away from behind me. And I did not see the source of that light, but I knew that it was from God. And as I started walking outside, I knew that there was a place of safety in that hill that I could see in the distance. So this light was guiding the path that I was walking on towards that hill, and that's when I woke up. Now, my interpretation of the second dream is very symbolic in that the hill can represent a place of refuge, even Christ. And the light can also represent Christ, the light of God. Now, I believe that the dreams that I've had in the past related to Russia, Iran, and now China are all related to events that are coming to the nation in the near future, and that they're warnings for God's people to get ready, especially spiritually, so that we may find a place of refuge in the times of trouble.
Last night I had a series of dreams, one after another, all pertaining to China and Russia invading the United States of America. I've had a number of dreams regarding this topic, and yet last night I had multiple dreams consecutively pertaining to this topic. I woke up with a great urgency on my heart, and I felt like it was God saying, tell the people to be prepared for things to come. I do want to say that it is not foolish to prepare your home for things to preserve you for a season if needed, and it is definitely not foolish to prepare your heart with Jesus and to make sure you're right with God through the blood of the Lamb. In one of the dreams, I was speaking with an American soldier, and I was telling him what it was that God was showing me in respect to China and Russia invading the United States. And as I was sharing the details with him, you could see that he was very sober by it. You could see that he took seriously what it was that I was saying to him. And my hope right now is that the people who are hearing this message would also take very seriously what I'm saying to you right now. God has shown me on a number of occasions the reality of the fact that the United States of America will come under attack by Russia and China for sure. I'm telling you without a shadow of a doubt, 100% fact. You can expect this to come to pass, and I believe that God has placed upon my heart an urgency to express unto the people that this invasion will take place very, very soon. And I want to caution you to be prepared spiritually, get right with Jesus, and make sure your spiritual house is in order. And don't be foolish. Make sure your physical house is in order just the same. Have some things in your home set back just in case you're unable to leave it for a season. Whatever you do, make sure that you're ready and prepared for worst case scenario. If y'all know me by now, I'm hoping and watching for the catching away of the bride of Christ. I'm watching for it. But I'm going to tell you this, that what I saw in the dreams last night and what I sense after waking up this morning causes me to believe that there's reason to be concerned and to be ready, because I do believe it's going to be soon. So take it how you will. Take it to prayer and seek the face of God and see what it is He speaks to you. But again, I want to caution you, be ready for worst case scenario, because there's some things that's going to come to pass in the U.S. And if you live in the USA, then I want to encourage you to be ready in every possible respect, because times of trouble are upon us as judgment unfolds against this nation. I love you in Jesus' name.
Hi YouTube. So I just got up because I had a prophetic dream, and I didn't want to miss anything and forget, so I just wanted to bring it to you as fast as I could. The dream starts out with the knowledge that we'd been nuked by the Russians. I'm standing in these fields. It looks like sort of the Midwest, like Indiana. And there's other people in these fields, and I was just sort of thinking about why the Russians would nuke us. And then I look over, and there is a formation of soldiers marching in single file line that is miles long. It's incredible.
And all of a sudden, I saw miles long army convoy, military convoy.
And they were all wearing like late 1800s Civil War cavalry, Stetson boots, hat, kind of spurs thing. Well, some of them were on horses, but others were marching single file line. And they just sort of walked past me and just kept marching, like they were just taking all of the land. Like everything they marched past, they just owned. And then it cut scenes. I'm no longer in that field. I'm at a school, and they had taken all our guns, and I was hiding guns in the walls of the school. And then I got a good look at the soldiers, and they were Chinese. And I understood why they were wearing Stetson, or why they were wearing cavalry uniforms. Cavalry is a very fast-moving unit. It's light infantry. It's not. It's light. Well, not infantry, but cavalry. But it's a very fast-moving unit. It's not held back by like bulky equipment. So they just get on and take, and then everybody else sort of reinforces. And that's what I just know from military service. So that's what God was sort of showing me concerning their uniforms, is that this was going to be a very fast-moving force, but a very large force at that. And their faces were Chinese. And I knew they were Chinese. Like, I'm not just being racist, like Asian. I knew specifically in my heart that they were Chinese. Yeah, I'm hiding weapons in the walls. And I think the weapons were Bibles. I honestly do. Especially if you look at the history of China and how they sort of ban religion. So I felt like the weapons we're hiding in the walls of the schools were all Bibles. We know the rapture's coming, but we don't know all the things that are going to happen right before and right after the rapture. We know the basic story of what's going to ultimately happen, but all the moving pieces we're still trying to figure out. And I just wanted to let you know what the Lord had told me, and unless you know that it's time to start winning souls. I mean, it's not. There's not a lot of time left. We don't really need to be wondering what God wants us to do with our life anymore. Like, should we be a doctor or a lawyer? I mean, like, take the opportunities you have, but your job right now is to win souls, because we're, like the snowball effect. We're in the avalanche stage. Like, this is fast moving and almost over.
Hey everybody, today is April the 29th of 2021. I'm coming to you today to share with you a dream that I was given at the early morning hours. And it is another dream of Russian invasion on American soil. The dream was very quick. So in the dream, I noticed I was traveling through a town. I'm not sure what town it was. Everybody was driving around in the cars. Everybody was acting like it was a normal day.
Everybody was just living their life. It was a lot of cars, a lot of people just walking back and forth.
Everyone was just going about their business. It was like a surprise. It just showed up.
And all of a sudden, I saw miles-long army convoy, military convoy of jeeps, trucks, tanks, stuff like that. And like I said, everybody was driving around like they didn't even see these things. Now, I went into a building, was trying to hide, and I saw over in a corner there was a military uniform that was folded up in a corner, over in the corner on the floor. And I looked at it and I identified it to be a Russian military uniform. Okay, I'm just telling you, the Lord has warned thousands of us that a Russian military invasion is coming. I've also been shown that China will be romping through our woods. They're also going to invade us. So I said to myself, I cannot believe I'm here to have to deal with this. That's what I said. Now, that is the second time that I had a dream. I mean, I've had several dreams of Russian invasion, but this is the second time in a dream of war that is coming upon us that I said, I can't believe I'm here to have to deal with this. And the last time I said, oh my gosh, I thought I'd be gone. I thought I wouldn't have to deal with this. So, how much of this are we going to have to endure? I don't know. And another dream I had where with the Russian invasion that I was actually in a glorified body. Florida was burning. We had been nuked, nuclear bomb. And I was in a glorified body and I was helping people. So, I don't know how much of this we're going to have to endure before we're taken out. Or is this just symbolic that, I don't know. I just don't even want to guess. I just have to tell you from what I was shown, all right? But thousands of us have been shown about this war, invasion, and captivity that we are going to undergo. America's going to fall. She will never rise again. So I'm just going to tell you to be prepared, but more than anything, be spiritually prepared, because you don't know how long. You don't even know if you're going to be able to live 5 minutes from now. You're not promised 5 minutes from now, 5 seconds from now, okay? So every single day we have to make sure we are prepared to meet our Maker, all right? Because once you take your last breath, it's game over. There's no do-over. There's no second chance.
And I wrote some notes on my phone and I printed them today. And I was like, let me just share this dream. So, craziest dream ever, okay? So, first of all, I was standing outside of a bank or an office. I don't know what it was, but it was a tall, beautiful, glass, dark building. I don't know what city it was. I don't know if it was the city I'm in right now. I doubt it was the city I'm in right now because it doesn't look like it. It had to be like New York or I don't know. The only thing I can think of is New York. Everybody was just living their life. It was a lot of cars, a lot of people just walking back and forth, like kind of like Times Square. Like when you see movies made in Times Square or Times Square videos and stuff like that. That's what it looked like. So I was just standing out there, and out of nowhere, I remember hearing noise like airplanes were coming. Everybody was looking up.
And all of a sudden, it happened so quick.
And then we just seen like war planes just boom coming. And they just started shooting. No mercy at all. No mercy. They were shooting down. When I tell you it was no mercy, it was no mercy. They were just shooting crazy shooting at everybody. People just started, it was chaos. People didn't know what to do, where to go, who to call. People did not care about nobody. They just wanted to get away. You did not see nobody trying to hug anybody or trying to get with nobody. Everybody was just running, trying to find a place to hide. When it started, it was like an afternoon, like it was daytime. The sun was still up, okay? And it was nighttime, and we were still running. I remember it was dark already, and we were still running, trying to find a place to hide. But these planes, these people didn't have no mercy on the people that was there. We ran for hours and hours and hours. Everywhere we went, they were shooting, they were blowing up places, they were doing a lot of stuff. As soon as the first planes came, I remember I got hit several times. I remember feeling it go through my head and just go in different places in my body. I got hit so many times because it was like raining bullets. It was raining bullets. That's the best way to explain it. It was raining bullets. You didn't know where the bullet was going to come from the top, I got hit several times. But let me tell you what happened. I got hit over 10 times, I would say. But let me tell you, not once I felt pain. Not once I felt or seen blood on me. Not once I fell. Not once I was weak. I kept running and going. And that's a message right there. That's a message that God is with me and God is with us. God is with us, Army of Yeshua. Stay with God. Stay close to God. He will have mercy on us and He will be with us no matter what situation we are in, no matter how or where we end up being or what happens. God is going to be with us. I'm telling you, more than 10 bullets hit me, came in, like I felt them like hitting me and stuff, coming inside of my body, going through my skin. But it was no pain. It was like it was not even there. It was like I was, the best way to explain it. You know how the cars, the armor trucks that go to banks and stuff, that whatever, if you shoot it or whatever, it don't go through it? The bullets went through my skin. But it was like I had the armor on. The armor of God was in, I had it on. It went through. Yes, it did. But it did not hurt me. It did not hurt me. It did not affect me. It did not do anything to me. I kept running. Thank God I take notes. Some people try to hide underground, like in basements, train stations, just everywhere. But I remember saying in the dream, or I don't know if I said it or if I heard a voice said it. And it was not no person that was running. It was like a voice from heaven, or it was, I don't know what it was, but I heard that says, there is nowhere to hide. There's no place to hide. When judgment of God comes, there's going to be no place to hide. Every country and every part of this earth will be touched by the hand of God. But we are going to be under His wings, so we don't have to worry.
Alright, so here's dream part 3 about Russia. Like I said before, I've been getting tons of them. Oh, I could go on and on. I can't believe I've never had dreams about Russia like this before, but they're in such details. So, here's dream number 3. So, the Russians came and started invading America on land, and I could see these vehicles, and I could see the Russians in their outfits, and they were all over the place. And they were gathering Americans inside these vehicles. They would gather a bunch of them inside their vehicles. And I was hidden up on top of this hill, and I was looking down at them. And they were one by one gathering the people in these vehicles, filling them up, and then they'd close off certain roads. And they would drive over to these parts of the roads that they closed off, and they were having the people get out of the vehicle. There were women, children, and men of all different ages everybody. And they had them line up against the hill, facing away from them. And then they would have them kneel down. So all of them were kneeled down in a line, facing away from them. And they were taking their gun and they're shooting them in the back of the head, one by one. Women, children, and men. And I felt like I couldn't save these people. I was like, if I go down the hill, all those Russian people are gonna shoot me and kill me. And I just felt hopeless. I felt like there was nothing I could do. I was seeing people crying, begging for their lives. And I kept wondering in my head, why do they shoot them in the back of the head like that? It was strange to me. But that's what they were doing. They were having them face away from them and shooting them one by one in the back of the head. And I woke up from that dream just like shooken. I was like, that's awful. It's too graphic. Like, I don't even want these dreams. But once again, I feel the urgency to share them with you guys. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.
Hi, brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus. This is Sister Gwendolyn Song, and I'm here with my sister today. We gathered for fellowship and for prayer, to pray for this nation and the things that are happening here. And I wanted to give my older sister the opportunity to share some of her end-time dreams and visions concerning the Russian invasion. All right.
Hi, everybody. So in my first dream, I was sitting in my office, and the Lord now is reminding me to tell you the dream, that I was just sitting there. I was doing my end-time servant work for the Lord, to put out prophetic news stories to help wake up the masses. And as I was sitting in my office, the Russian troops were coming down the road in their tanks, and they were marching down the road like they were going house to house. Well, they came to my house. I opened my front door and I screamed the word Jesus. And then they shot me. And I don't know if I died or if I lived. But I don't know if they came to my house because I was a Christian and people might have said something in my neighborhood about me being a Christian and they were there to just take me out. But that was my first dream. My second dream, again, I was in my office, and I saw the Russian troops at my gates, and they just came through my gate. They went straight back to my garage, which I've had a church there since 2015. They went into the garage, and they were tearing my garage apart. They were pulling the Bibles off of my bookshelf. They were throwing them on the floor, and they were ripping them up. They were stomping on them. And when I came into the garage, I was devastated, and I threw myself on top of the Bibles. I was screaming, no, no. And they just started kicking me and punching me. And that was the end of the dream.
Do you remember the part you had spoken about this dream to me in the past, and you said they had drug you out of the garage into the driveway? They drug you by your feet.
Yes. Yes, they did. They drug me out.
And that's when the dream ended. That's what you had shared with me before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They did drag me out.
No mercy.
And then after that, the Lord put it on my heart to bury Bibles in my yard. So I got some trash bags. I wrapped the Bibles up in trash bags, and then I put them in a glad, like a Ziploc baggie. And then I got a metal box, and I put it in the metal box. So I had this Bible, I would say, back there for 2 years. I dug a Bible and back by my bedroom window, and I went back and dug it up just to make sure that it was still safe. And it was still all intact. There's nothing wrong with it.
Great idea.
So if the Lord puts it on your heart to go out and bury some Bibles, just, to hide them around the property, I think that's a good thing. And maybe one day, when things are real bad, somebody will come along and find them. But the best thing to do is to hide the Word of God in your heart and to read the Word every day. And that's the only way you're going to remember the Word, really, is just to read it every day. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Well, I want to thank you, Melanie, for for sharing your testimonies, and I pray that that will bless someone. We're not sharing these prophetic dreams to scare people, but to alert the masses that we are in the last days, the days prior to the coming of the Lord, and we need to get our spiritual houses in order.
I typed it all out once I woke up. I had the dream. These are one of these rare prophetic dreams that were really powerful and really anointed. I'm just going to share exactly what I saw and the revelations that I've got afterwards from researching some of the points in the dream. Okay, I dreamt that I saw a missile that was aimed at a ship off the Pacific coast of Russia. So basically I saw this massive missile, and it had a whole group of other missiles around like a diagram, and it was sitting on the Russian Pacific coast, and I could see these dotted line aimed at into the Pacific at a ship. So it was aimed to hit the ship. The missile was huge, like a US Saturn V rocket. That was the impression I got in the dream at the time. The missile had some association with the word Chernobyl. I saw at one point a star rising into the sky, and I knew it had something to do with the missile. I heard an alarm and then saw the star. I saw it rise right up into space, and I was confused as to why. I then realized it was an ICBM. That means an intercontinental ballistic missile, their nuclear weapons, and was going to release its warheads in space. So I saw the star rising up. I was like, is that a star? Why am I seeing a star rising in this dream? And then it turned and it started maneuvering, and then I realized I was seeing a missile launch. I saw a man, Trudeau, and he was an instigator of a war, and I saw Australia was also involved and came under...
Okay, Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. He's the Prime Minister in Canada. And I've had a few dreams of Canada. I've had dreams that Russia comes in through Canada into North America. I've had dreams of ships off the coast up there, Washington, Canadian border. And I don't know if they're FEMA ships. Well, they're military ships, but I wasn't sure if they were there to offer relief because it was such a cold, snowy, freezing winter. People had to be helped, like evacuated, because they couldn't build a fire. They didn't have enough warm clothes. The kids were freezing. And then he goes and mentions Australia. So I've had dreams of Australia being invaded, war coming. I saw this stone on the map, and I heard the Lord say, the sword in the stone. And the sword in the stone is a reference to King Arthur and the Round Table. And there's Britain. That's a reference to Britain. I was also told Moira Lears. There's Moira down there in Australia. That's a whole nother video I did. Victoria. Judgment is coming down there. The Lord is taking his hand away, and these things are going to happen. And all that call upon the name of the Lord will be saved, whether it's before the rapture or after the rapture. I don't know. But let's take a listen.
Missile attack from the north. Now, I don't know what this has to do with this, but I saw Australia being hit from a northerly direction by missiles as well. And then I saw these words, and it was like I heard a narrative speaking. Everything went dark, and I saw these words and heard them and felt them. The earth went red, and then the victims were remembered and were at rest. And this was the scariest part of the dream. When I saw those words, I saw placards being placed on a wall by a man, the man wearing glasses, that were a memorial to children that had died as a result of a war.
Okay, so as I was watching this video this morning, and I was just getting blown away, you guys, because God is mighty and amazing. When he wants you to know something, he'll confirm it. And I'm just like, wow. And as I'm watching this, I hear the words in my spirit, Geneva Convention. I have no idea what that was. So I went to look this up, as I got to this part right here, I went to look up Geneva Convention. And what it was like a bunch of papers that were put into place, like rules of war engagement, where whoever is in the act of war, they cannot kill innocent women and children. They cannot just go and blast just an area and a country on the map where innocent civilians are. They cannot, like, if there's a Red Cross ship or a ship that's like a hospital or a building that's a hospital or anywhere like that, they cannot just go and throw a missile on there and blow people up. There is rules to engagement in war. And that's the Geneva Convention. And I knew, after I heard those words, I knew in my spirit that that's going to be tossed out the door. Nobody's going to care about Geneva Convention. Nobody's going to care about if we're blowing up innocent people and civilians and hospitals and children and all that. They're not going to care.
As I watched, he stood and stared at one of he placed on the wall. The placards seemed to come to life and images of children were superimposed on each one. This seemed to happen at We're at Rest. I saw these children writing on blackboards as if they were still alive but now were in heaven and were still doing kid type stuff and were happy. So these kids were like victims of war, and they were like together playing and writing on these blackboards, like drawing pictures and writing stuff. And they was completely at peace. And when I saw that, I was so...
That's because they're with Jesus, you guys. They're with him, and they're at rest, and they are remembering nothing of what happened. They're happy and safe in the arms of the Lord.
Grieved, like I was sitting there in the dream watching it as if I was watching a movie I couldn't turn off, and it was very sad to see this, and it really affected me right in my stomach and my heart. Well, I was really grieved at what I saw, and I was sobbing in the dream as I watched this. And I was crying out to God when I was watching this and saying, help me, God, to be a better person, Because this innocence that I saw and the pain that I felt, I just felt so wretched watching this. So this is what this was basically the gist of the dream, but I just want to look at some points of it. I looked up I know that Chernobyl was a disaster in the Ukraine in 1986 of the nuclear power plant issue, but I looked up what the word Chernobyl meant, and it actually means wormwood. So, and wormwood's in the Bible, and we all know what happens in Revelations with wormwood. I'm sure wormwood was a star that fell from the heavens to the earth burning like a torch, and it poisoned everything. So I'm assuming that this missile is this war is something to do with a great poisoning of the world from some sort of nuclear war. Chernobyl means wormwood, it means bitterness. I think with my dream, what God was trying to say is that this wormwood star is associated with nuclear war and the poisoning of all the waters. I'm pretty sure in Revelations the wormwood star falls on all the rivers and makes them bitter, and people died because they drank the bitter waters, the wormwood. Thank you for watching.
The Holy Spirit gave me a dream that in this dream, I remember I was walking in this neighborhood down the street, and there was a crowd of people in the streets, and it started off kind of small, and then the crowd got bigger, and the people were coming out of their houses, and they were all like gathered together. Some had their children on their hip or with them, and they started looking back in one direction. And when they started looking back, I remember thinking, what are they looking at? And so as I was walking with a couple of family members, we turned and looked back, and all of a sudden it happened so quick. these Humvees started pulling up. And when these Humvees started pulling up in the neighborhood, they had all these soldiers on the Humvees. And I remember someone saying, the beast is coming, the beast is coming. And I looked and I seen all these Chinese soldiers on these Humvees with weapons in their hands. And they started jumping off the Humvees and, rushing into the street. And when they were rushing into the street, I thought that, when they were running into the street, they were going to like attack the regular citizens. But I'm telling you what they did. Instead of them attacking the regular citizens, the wicked, they didn't touch the wicked. They left them in the streets, and these individuals was watching. They began to go after Christians. And so they were coming up to the people asking them, are you a Christian? Are you a Christian? And if you said yes, or if you stood there and you didn't deny it, then they would round them up and make them get in the Humvee. Or some of them, when I heard this, I remember I started running and I ran into this house. And when I went into this house with a couple of other people, and I was telling the individuals in the house to lock the doors and pull the curtains down, and I was telling them that China was outside and that they were coming for the Christians, and they were going to kill and annihilate the Christians. This was they weren't wanting to lock them up, nothing of that nature. They actually wanted to kill them. They, on one of the Humvees, pulled out a hose, and they began to go in the houses and drag the Christians out of the houses. And when they drug them out, they tied their hands behind their back and they lined them up. They made them line up. And they began to spray this acid, some type of yellow looking acid, out of the hoses onto, it's like a fire hose that comes out of a fire truck, but this, instead of the water, it was acid coming out. They were spraying it on the Christians, and it was, the people were screaming, it was burning their flesh. And they were killing them with this acid, hosing them down with it. And I remember when I was in this house, they started shooting at the house to get, I guess, an open passageway. And they started spraying the acid in the house. And I ran out of the house. And when I ran out of the house, I come around to the side and I managed to start running down the street. And when I started running down the street, I seen these huge helicopters in the sky, and they were unmarked, and they began to drop bombs everywhere. And I was running, and as I was running, because I've had this, this was some years ago, and I think I said something to the Holy Spirit. I was saying to him, and all of a sudden, as I was running, it's like something shut my eyes and blinded me from seeing what was the rest of what was happening. And I could hear, as I was running, the guns, the shooting, the people screaming. They started gunning the people down in the road, people running everywhere, scattering. You could hear bombs dropping and everything. And then I woke up out of the dream.
So I'll go ahead and explain the dream. In my dream, we were actually in Hilton Head. We were not in Orange Beach. We were in Hilton Head, and my family was there. My mom and dad and my sisters and my husband and my kids. And we were out on the beach, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, bombs started dropping all around us. And mass chaos ensued, as you would expect. Everybody freaking out, and we couldn't figure out exactly who was responsible for dropping the bombs, but we knew that it was from somewhere over in the east. It was either China or Russia.
Like I said, I was sleeping, and in the dream, I'm at Santa Monica. In Santa Monica, California, I'm over by like the pier, which is like, it's got like seems like a fair or carnival type atmosphere at the pier. It's a real famous pier in Santa Monica, California, and it was in the daytime, and it was real sunny, and for some reason I thought it was the weekend, you know, and everyone was just going about their business, and what happened was we were looking out towards the ocean, and everyone was looking out there, and what we saw was like a foreign navy, and it was either like a Chinese Navy or like the Russian Navy, and it was all out there, and there were submarines out there that had surfaced, and
I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, they were all along there, and so I looked, because at that time we lived in Portland, Oregon, so I looked off across toward Portland, Oregon, and I saw these submarines along the Pacific coast, and I began to look all the way down as I looked down in towards San Diego. There they were, along our coast.
It was all out there, and there were submarines out there that had surfaced, and they were just kicking it out there, and no one seemed alarmed. It was like entertainment. Everybody was looking at it, checking it out, and wondering, you know, what's that about and whatnot. And everyone started just going about their business and stuff, and just staring at it and wondering what it was all about. There was nothing in the news about it or anything.
They gotta know it. They've got to sound the alarms. If there's that kind of a military going down across the Atlantic now, there's got to be some alarms set off. No alarm went off.
And everyone started just going about their business and stuff, and just staring at it and wondering what it was all about. There was nothing in the news about it or anything. It was like a surprise. It just showed up, and it was huge. It was all over the ocean out there. And I thought, wow, what's that about? But for some reason, I just had a bad feeling about it. Then, all of a sudden, they started launching missiles, all types of like missiles, bombs, so to speak, towards the entire Los Angeles area, the entire coast there, and of the Los Angeles area, that entire harbor there. And they started bombing us. And people started panicking and running everywhere, you know, and then I woke up.
I had just left my career that I was in for 16 years, and I took a trip to Europe. And I was in Scotland staying with a brother and sister that I know in Scotland. And one night while I was there, I had a dream. And this dream, I was back home in Toronto, and I was walking around a city street, and as I looked up, I could see warplanes flying overhead, and I just, for some reason, I knew that they were Russian planes and that they were going towards the US. And I'm not sure exactly how I knew, but I knew wholeheartedly that it was Russia that was flying overhead, and they were not flying to Canada, but they were flying just past Canada and into the US. So I shared that with Philip after he shared his revelation with me, and just felt confirmation with that.
A Malaysian who's currently living in Taiwan, but in this dream I was in America. I was standing on the road. It seemed like a busy road. People just walking around, and there were very tall buildings on my left and my right. I'm estimating about, I think, 50 to 70 floors. And suddenly there was a bomb dropping somewhere right in front of my face, and caused a huge explosion. I've never seen anything like this before.
As I said that, all of a sudden, the first missile fired out of a submarine, and it went up, and it hit right over New York City. I watched that city literally disintegrate into the atmosphere as that massive explosion took place. I mean, it was gone, folks. There'll be nothing left of that city.
The Lord came to me in a warning dream last night, saints. And in this dream, I remember looking into the skies, and I couldn't see nothing at first because of the clouds. And then out of nowhere, I saw these jet planes and these cargo planes emerge. And out of the jet planes and cargo planes came men in parachutes, in droves. They began to invade America. And I remember in the dream, waking up in the dream, seeing these airplane parts scattered in his backyard. And I remember videotaping it and getting ready to upload it on YouTube. And I was reminded of Russia. And I remember telling my auntie, look what's happening. Do you see what's happening? And she was nonchalant about it. And she said, oh yeah, airplanes. I said, no. Do you see what's going on? God is allowing this to happen. He's bringing judgment on America. A foreign military is about to invade. And I remember telling my brother the same exact thing. Do you see what's going on? Do you see what's happening? Do you see what's taking place? And he was nonchalant about it. And I remember slapping him as to wake him up. Man, look, we are about to be invaded. And this dream was so real, saints. It was modern day, but it looked like America was desolate, like a reset button had taken place to make it look like old times. And I remember waking up from the dream, repenting to the Lord, asking Him to forgive me for my sins. I don't know when this is going to happen. I'm not going to set a date or a calendar month. That's up to the Lord. But the dream was urgent. Russia was the word that I heard. And this isn't the first dream that I've had of Russia invading. It was like the airwaves in America was blanketed with parachuters and airplanes. It's time to repent. It doesn't matter who's in office. America's fate is sealed. Take it to the Lord in prayer. We will be invaded soon. Shalom. I love you guys.
Tower later. I didn't know the name of the tower. When I got to the top of it, there were 8 kind of nobular looking things aiming 8 different directions, north, south, east, and west, and in between. And I kind of looked at them, and they were in these notches like where you could fire arrows out from. And I was standing looking out over the island of Anglesey. Standing there when all of a sudden, in this vision, I was shot up into the heavens and looking down on the earth like you would look at a satellite picture. You see it every time you see the weather. It looked somewhat similar, and I had supernatural vision. I looked down and I saw a massive military movement coming out of the Icelandic waters up above Iceland. I couldn't believe my eyes in what I saw. I saw this massive military movement coming out of this area up in here. It came down between, in the Atlantic, down between the United States and Europe. It was marine and air, as you can see the airplanes. This was my first confirmation in the sense from General Walker. General Walker has given me many confirmations. This was my first picture of actually that they had drawn this assault taking place. It shows also the movement coming out of Europe across to take these countries, and NATO command center is right in here. So you're looking at some very, very serious fronts that Russia has been building and has. This massive military movement coming down between the United States and Europe just troubled me as I'm watching it. So then I looked off across at the United States wondering, well, if they're doing that across the Atlantic, what are they doing on the United States? That's too big to just be a maneuver. And I looked down, and as I looked across at the United States, I first saw the eastern seaboard of the Atlantic seaboard, and I looked and I saw these submarines look like they were parked right along our beaches, all the way along the east coast. And what I mean by along the beaches is where the sands, if you fly and look down in the ocean, at the clear water of the ocean, you will see the point where the beaches begin, the white sands begin to turn, and it gets darker, and you can see the edge of the beach, so to speak, or the sand that's washed back into the sea. They were parked with their hulls right at the point of where that sand was beginning to discolor and the floor of the ocean was coming through. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, they were all along there. And so I looked, because at that time we lived in Portland, Oregon. So I looked off across toward Portland, Oregon. And I saw these submarines along the Pacific coast. And I began to look all the way down as I looked down in towards San Diego. There they were along our coasts. And as I was looking down towards San Diego, all of a sudden I saw motion all across the United States. And these radio towers, it's like they were coming out of the ground and going up into the air. And then they were dotting their lines out like they were broadcasting. And I was made to know that they were sounding the alarm. But as they began to sound the alarm, all of a sudden the broadcasting signals went out and they sprinkled to the ground like dust. And I was totally aware, made totally aware in the vision, that the warning was not getting through. And I shouted in the heavens and I said, "Oh no, Lord, the warning isn't getting through. They won't even know what hit them." And as I said that, all of a sudden, the first missile fired out of a submarine, and it went up and it hit right over New York City. I watched that city literally disintegrate into the atmosphere as that massive explosion took place. I mean, it was gone, folks. There'll be nothing left of that city. Then all of a sudden I looked down along the coast and about where I would say be about Miami, Florida. And I told them down there last night and they weren't too happy to hear that. And I said, and Miami disappeared. And then all of a sudden, because I was seeing this happen here, I looked away then. So I don't know if there were more explosions took place between those two as far as the coastal area. I didn't see it. My concern was over toward Oregon again because my family was in Portland at that time. As I was looking over toward Portland, I saw another explosion. It looked like it was in the area of Seattle, Bellevue. That area went up, just like New York and Miami. Then all of a sudden I looked down, and here's another one going off, and it looked like the San Francisco area. Then down about Los Angeles, just about to Los Angeles, and then San Diego. I saw those 5 nuclear-looking explosions. And I tell you, they literally devastated everything. Whatever was in their path, it went into the heavens. In the Russian invasion vision, I saw that massive military. I saw them hitting in on the nation and hitting our coasts and pounding them. And then all of a sudden I was back down on the Eagle Tower looking at a leftward way down into the village automatic because that's the position I was looking at standing in the heavens. And I watched the village. The cars are going. Normal speed. People were walking normal, talking normal. And I thought, and I don't know how long I stood there and watched thinking, well, are the alarms going to go off at any minute? If this is happening in the United States, they gotta know it. They've got to sound the alarms. If there's that kind of a military going down across the Atlantic now, there's got to be some alarms set off. No alarm went off.
The odd, crazy thing about it was the dream started where the other one left off. In this dream, in the next dream, dream number 2, I'm over in the northern part of Los Angeles, what they call the San Fernando Valley, and that's where you have like your suburbs and, you know, your neighborhoods and whatnot, mostly huge neighborhoods, San Fernando Valley. And what I saw was chaos. People running around, citizens, Angelenos, if you will, running around everywhere, all over, crying, screaming, in total panic like I've never seen in my life, not even in the movies. And there were soldiers. They were paratrooping, parachuting onto the streets. They were running around everywhere. It seems like the whole place had been invaded. And like I said, I couldn't tell you what the uniforms were for some reason. I couldn't even tell you the nationality of the foreign troops that had invaded. But for some reason, in my heart, I believed it was like Chinese and Russian troops. That for some reason that what was pressed upon me. And they were running around and of course killing everybody. Everybody was getting killed. And they were like wiping us all out. No one was really armed. It's on our side, United States citizen side. No one. It did seem like no one, for the most part, the majority of us were not armed. And everybody was running around, and it was so chaotic. It was scary, and I was running around myself. But more like I was running around, but as a spectator, like looking around and seeing all this. But I could feel it also. And I woke up. And now it was scary because I thought, oh man, this is real. But then once again, for some reason, I was in doubt. I doubted myself. I doubted the Lord. I thought, man, maybe this is too crazy. I'm just a regular guy. And I said, well, Lord, if this is real, if this is totally real, give me one more dream and I'll believe it, Lord. And I fell asleep while I was saying that. And lo and behold, a third dream in a row about pretty much exactly the same thing. And it left off exactly where it was. The other one had ended. You know, it started again. And in this third dream, it showed, it was more like it was more chaotic, more destruction had occurred, and it seemed like this kept going on and on. It wasn't a one-day thing. And people were running around, and now people are in hiding and stuff like that. And this was the third dream, and there was more bombs, and it was happening all over the United States. I was just seeing the Los Angeles area, but I realized in this third dream that it was actually happening everywhere all over the United States. And what was occurring was, in this next dream, was it was more of the same, but like I said, all over the United States. And I was feeling what people were feeling, and it was utter panic. I can't describe it in words. It was like a hopelessness. Everybody was shocked. That's what the biggest feeling was shocked. No one could believe that this was actually happening, that this was happening to us, because we've never really been attacked except for the Alamo, Pearl Harbor, that sort of thing. And of course 9/11. But, nothing like this magnitude where there's troops running around like this magnitude. And people were in total panic, and I was feeling their heart. It's like, it was like nothing I've ever seen before, and I woke up. Now, the fourth, so again, I thought, no way. And I was just amazed. And this time, I was just shocked when I woke up. And I knew it was just like the other dreams were. It just seemed so real. And this time I didn't really pray and say, oh, well, Lord, give me another dream or whatever. But I thought, you know what, if it was real, if it was real, then maybe the Lord will give me one more dream and I'll know for sure. But I was more like thinking of it myself rather than actually praying it to the Lord. And I fell asleep and had a fourth dream. All this is in one night, mind you. In the fourth dream, it was more of the same, and it showed people in their homes, and they're in their homes and they're trying to hide. Everyone's trying to hide by now, and more troops are coming in. Foreign troops invading more and more and more. It was a total invasion of the United States. The skies were filled with planes. Bombs were dropping. Tons of United States citizens were being killed. And the enemy, there was really nothing holding them back. It was a total surprise attack, in other words. And the people were utterly shocked, as I was, watching this. And I couldn't believe it. So it was more of the same on that dream. More. I could see the intensity of the plan of the attack. And it was a well-planned attack. I mean, we were overwhelmed. And it was evident that the United States was falling. That was a thing in the dream. And it was evident that this was the end times. It was the end times. I couldn't tell you if the rapture had already occurred. I don't know. I don't know if it was like before the rapture or after the rapture. But what I knew is that it was during the tribulation. We were in the tribulation. It was evidence because I could sense the evilness. There was definitely an evilness. It was definitely as a result of evilness of the devil his plot and whatnot, and that's what was impressed upon me, was that this was the end times, the tribulation. It was the fall of Babylon. It was the fall of the United States. It was part of the tribulation, and the United States was falling, and everybody knew it in their hearts. It was evident. This was the end. This is what we've been hearing about and whatnot, and everybody was definitely sensing it. And then I woke up.
Okay, so I wanted to do a little video today talking about the Third World War and what people have been shown about it. So I only really twigged in the last 2 weeks that this is going to happen for sure. And the thing that changed for me when I realized that was I could see that this is something that's coming up in the future, because basically it's being seen by many different people, and they're all seeing the same basic details. Thousands of people actually in the United States are having dreams about this coming war, and the details match up with a shocking degree of accuracy and specificity. So you can look these videos up online on YouTube. If you look up Chinese invasion of the USA dream, I'm also going to put a couple of links in the description box to some good channels I've found which cover some of this material, and a couple of other videos from just the links to videos. So I'll put the links to 2 channels and then the links to some standalone videos, some of the better ones that I've seen which cover this material. So to summarize, it's a sneak attack. Well, okay, I'm going to talk about the Anglo side of things, so what happens in the Anglo nations, that's being the United States, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. The picture of what happens in Europe is much less clear to me at this time. I'm going to do more research on that in the near future. So I'm not really ready to talk about that part yet, but I can summarize all the stuff I've seen and heard about the dreams with regards to what happens in the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand, a little bit of what happens in the UK, but I need to do more research there again also. So there's some very much some common themes to all of these dreams which all match up. So talking about the US first. It's a series of sneak attacks by Russia and China. Some of these dreams also give details about the militaries of other countries being involved in this invasion, and it's definitely Russia and China. Some of them say it's also Iran, North Korea and Colombia, interestingly enough. Some of them talk about the US doing something really bad, the US government, to Colombia in the coming years between now and when that conflict begins, and it really pisses the Colombians off, so they actually send some of their army to fight in the US to kind of get their own back, to get even. It's really bad, unfortunately. A common element is that nuclear weapons are used early on, and a lot of the large American cities are hit with nuclear weapons. Something really bad happens to a lot of the big cities in the Northeast. A lot of these dreams have been showing some kind of exotic weapon using something like a hydrogen bomb in an underwater submarine drone. The Russians have some technology like this. There's something called the Poseidon drone, from what I've seen. They are these enormous autonomous drones which can move really quietly and silently and stealthily over long periods of time, kind of sneak up, and then they can move really fast when they need to. But then they from what I understand, they shoot up to the surface of the water and they fire these ICBMs, these missiles, and you know, a lot of them have nuclear warheads on them. And yeah, a lot of people have seen that one of these weapons is deployed against New York City and it creates a tsunami about 100 meters high that just devastates the city. And then you've got radioactive water everywhere after that.
In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit upon all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams.
I see people fighting. I see fires breaking out, violence, people killing each other.
But the terror, the absolute terror I seen and heard was frightening.
And I woke up feeling desperate, like, Lord, you are coming soon. That's what I was saying a lot, you know. I couldn't stop saying, Jesus, you are coming. Jesus, you are coming. Jesus, you are coming.
The Lord spoke to me, and he said to me, the flight, the rapture of the saints. That was when I understood the meaning of the dream.
Hi, I'm Gary Greenlee. During the last few years, a phenomenon is taking place where people all over the world are having rapture dreams at an increasing rate. These are just some of them.
When I was talking, this massive, really loud trumpet covered the whole sky. And it was so loud, and we were all so scared we sat down on the ground and we held hands. And I knew that it was time and I was going to be taken and my parents were going to be left.
It was just like I saw a figure of a man. And I just started saying, oh my God, it's Jesus, it's Jesus. And I just
billowing, and then they parted. And then I saw like a Jesus-like figure in the clouds, and then I started lifting up.
I started to lift up. It's like gravity was shut off. And all of a sudden I looked at my feet, and my feet were literally floating up. And I was like,
and this trumpet was so loud, like it was so loud, like literally everyone in the world heard it. You could not miss it.
As I was standing there, I heard a loud sound of a trumpet. And it blew for quite a while.
But this one was like very, very low, like a blowhorn, like.
So I'm sitting there, and I hear this noise in the sky, and it's literally like a trumpet, and it's so loud.
Well, listen, it appears that I am in small town USA, but what this place is not exempt from is the challenge that's going on in the world today regarding supply. And supply is happening on every location, on every continent in the entire world. Supply of goods, the supply of money. Nations are printing money right now because of economies that are failing. We're looking at the absolute dissolving of the family worldwide. Friends, listen, everything we're talking about is all of a sudden happening on a global basis. The world is moving towards a cashless, currency-less, numeric economy, numbers. We are hearing about the issues of racism and race wars taking place. We are talking about wars and rumors of wars that Jesus spoke about. We're looking at what's taking place in the Middle East. We see what's happening right now, where at the time of this recording, Vladimir Putin and Russian forces are just about to lose in the Ukraine. And what is that going to do to the world? What's happening in the South Pacific and all the things that are going down there regarding the destabilization of the world? And, for example, England has no queen anymore. England's got a new monarch, a king. And that king is a globalist. That king is very, very open to a global governance type of system. What's happening? Everything is moving at breakneck speed all of a sudden towards the setting up of a one world governing empire. That's nothing I'm making up. The Bible talks about in the last days that there's going to be an attempt by the nations of the world to really look to one man to solve all their problems. And the world is in a heap of trouble. And you look around and you see what's happening, and this is what's unique. In World War I and World War II, those were called world wars, but it didn't completely subject the entire world into the same problem. There were pockets and places in the world. Right now, we've got global issues that are affecting small town USA and big cities of Asia and New York and Frankfurt and London. Everything's happening right now at the same time. Why? I believe it's because Jesus Christ is coming back soon. We're seeing things set up that will usher in the end time events of the tribulation period. But look up, Christian. I believe that Jesus promised in John chapter 14 that He'll be back to pick us up any day now. So keep your eyes focused on Him and take note. With every breaking bit of news of what's happening in the world, it should tell you, hey, Christ is coming back. I want to make sure I'm ready to meet Him, and I want to be ready to present my life to Him. I want to be caught when He comes being busy about my Father's business.